وعلى محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها مؤرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متقئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلا ت... أفلم ت... ت... أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
السلام عليكم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك باسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم الذي إذا دعيت به على مغالق أبواب السماء للفتح بالرحمة فتحات وإذا دعيت به على مضائق أبواب الأرض للفرج فرجات وإذا دعيت به على العسر لليسر تيسرات وإذا دعيت به على الأموات للنشور انتشرات وإذا دعيت به على كشف البأساء والضراء انكشفت وبجلال وجهك الكريم أكرم الوجوه وعز الوجوه الذي عنت له الوجوه وخضعت له الرقاب وخشعت له الأصوات ووجلت له القلوب من مخافتك وبقوتك التي بها تمسك السماء أن تقع على الأرض إلا بإذنك وتمسك السماوات والأرض أن تزولا وبمشيتك التي دان لها العالمون وبكلمتك التي خلقت بها السماوات والأرض وبحكمتك التي صنعت بها العجائب وخلقت بها الظلمة وجعلتها ليلا وجعلت الليل سكنا وخلقت بها النور وجعلته نهارا وجعلت النهار نشورا مبصرا وخلقت بها الشمس وجعلت الشمس ضياء وخلقت بها القمر وجعلت القمر نورا وخلقت بها الكواكب وجعلتها نجوما وبروجا ومصابيح وزينة ورجوما وجعلت لها مشارق ومغارب وجعلت لها مطالع ومجاري وجعلت لها فلكا ومسابح وقدرتها في السماء منازل فأحسنت تقديرها وصورتها فأحسنت تصويرها وأحصيتها بأسمائك إحصاء ودبرتها بحكمتك تدبيرا وأحسنت تدبيرها وسخرتها بسلطان الليل وسلطان النهار والساعات وعدد السنين والحساب وجعلت رؤيتها لجميع الناس مريئا واحدا وأسألك اللهم بمجدك الذي كلمت به عبدك ورسولك موسى بن عمران عليه السلام في المقدسين فوق إحساس الكروبين فوق غمائم النور فوق تابوت الشهادة في عمود النار وفي طور سيناء وفي جبل حورث في الوادي المقدس في البقعة المباركة من جانب الطور الأيمن ومن الشجرة وفي أرض مصر بتسع آيات بينات ويوم فرقت لبني إسرائيل البحر وفي منبجسات التي صنعت بها العجائب في بحر صوف وأعقدت ماء البحر في قلب الغمر كالحجارة وجاوزت ببني إسرائيل البحر وتمت كلمة الحسنى عليهم بما صبروا وأورثتهم مشارق الأرض ومغارب التي باركت فيها للعالمين وأغرقت فرعون وجنوده ومراكبه في اليم وباسمك العظيم الأعظم الأعز الأجل الأكرم وبمجدك الذي تجليت به لموسى كليمك عليه السلام في طور سيناء ولإبراهيم عليه السلام خليلك من قبل وفي مسجد الخائف ولإسحاق صفيك عليه السلام في بئر شيعة وليعقوب نبيك عليه السلام في بيت إيل وأوفيت لإبراهيم عليه السلام بميثاقك ولإسحاق بحلفك وليعقوب بشهادتك وللمؤمنين بوعدك وللداعين بأسمائك فأجبت وبمجدك الذي ظهرت لموسى بن عمران عليه السلام على قبة الزمان وبآياتك التي وقعت على أرض مصر وبمجدك العزة والغلبة بآيات عزيزة وبسلطان القوة وبعزة القدرة وبشأن الكلمة التامة وبكلمتك التي تفضلت بها على أهلها السماوات والأرض وأهل الدنيا وأهل الآخرة، وبرحمتك التي مننت بها على جميع خلقك، وباستطاعتك التي أقمت بها على العالمين، وبنور الذي قد خر من فزعه طور سيناء، وبعلمك وجليلك وكبريائك وعزتك وبجبروتك التي لم تستقل لها الأرض. صلوات.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وانخفضت لها السماوات وانزجر لها عمق الأكبر، وركدت لها البحار وأنهار، وخضعت لها الجبال، وسكنت لها الأرض بمنكبها، واستسلمت لها الخلائق كلها، وخفقت لها الرياح في جرينها، وخمدت لها النيران في أوطانها، وبسلطانك الذي عرفت لك به غلبت دهر الدهور، وحمدت به في السماوات والأرضين، وبكلمتك كلمة الصدق التي سبقت لأبينا آدم عليه السلام وذريته بالرحمة، وأسألك بكلمتك التي غلبت كل شيء، وبنور وجهك الذي تجليت به للجبل فجعلته دكا وخر موسى صعقا، وبمجدك الذي ظهر على طور سيناء فكلمت به عبدك ورسولك موسى بن عمران، وبطلعتك في السعير، وظهور في جبل فران بربوات المقدسين، وجنود الملائكة الصافين، وخشوع الملائكة مسبحين، وببركتك التي باركت فيها على إبراهيم خليلك عليه السلام في أمة محمد صلى الله عليه وآله، وباركت الإسحاق صفيك في أمة عيسى عليهم السلام، وباركت ليعقوب إسرائيلك في أمة موسى عليه السلام، وباركت لحبيب محمد صلى الله عليه وآله في عترته وذريته وأمته. اللهم وكما غبنا عن ذلك ولم نشهده وآمنا به ولم نره صدقا وعدلا، أن تصلي على محمد وآل محمد، وأن تبارك على محمد وآل محمد، وترحم على محمد وآل محمد كأفضل ما صليت وباركت وترحمت على إبراهيم وآل إبراهيم، إنك حميد مجيد فعال لما تريد، وأنت على كل شيء قدير شهيد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى اللهم بحق هذا الدعاء وبحق هذا الأسماء التي لا يعلم تفسيرها، ولا يعلم باطنها غيرك. صل على محمد وآل محمد وافعل بي ما أنت أهله ولا تفعل بي ما أن أهله، واغفر لي من ذنوب ما تقدم منها وما تأخر، ووسع علي من حلال رزق، واكفني مؤونة إنسان سوء وجراء سوء وقرين سوء وسلطان سوء، إنك على ما تشاء قدير وبكل شيء عليم. آمين رب العالمين. يا الله يا حنان يا منان يا بديع السماوات والأرض يا ذا الجلال والإكرام يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم بحق هذا الدعاء وبحق هذه الأسماء التي لا يعلم تفسيرها ولا تأويلها ولا باطنها ولا ظاهرها غيرك، أن تصل على محمد وآل محمد، وأن ترزقني خير الدنيا والآخرة، وافعل بي ما أنت أهله ولا تفعل بي ما أنت أهله، وانتقم لي واغفر لي من ذنوب ما تقدم منها وما تأخر، ولوالدي ولجميع المؤمنين والمؤمنات، ووسع علي من حلال رزقك، واكفني مؤونة إنسان سوء وجراء سوء وسلطان سوء وقرين سوء ويوم سوء وساعة سوء، وانتقم لي ممن يكيدني ممن يبغي علي ويريد بي وبأهلي وأولادي وإخواني وجيراني وقرابتي من المؤمنين والمؤمنات ظلما، إنك على تشاء قدير وبكل شيء عليم. آمين رب العالمين. اللهم بحق هذا الدعاء تفضل على فقراء المؤمنين والمؤمنات بغنى والثروة، وعلى مراضى المؤمنين والمؤمنات بشفاء وصحة، وعلى أحياء المؤمنين والمؤمنات باللطف والكرامة، وعلى موات المؤمنين والمؤمنات بالمغفرة ورحمة، وعلى مسافرين المؤمنين والمؤمنات بالرد إلى أوطانهم سالمين غانمين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد خاتم النبيين وعترة الطاهرين وسلم تسليما كثيرا. اللهم إني أسألك بحرمة هذا الدعاء وبما فات منه من الأسماء وبما يشتمل عليه من التفسير والتدبير الذي لا يحيط به إلا أنت. اللهم
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, dear brothers and sisters. Alhamdulillah, all praise to Allah who grants us these opportunities where we are able to hold these beautiful gatherings. Inshallah, there's about 4 minutes remaining, about 48 today for Salat al-Maghrib, giving ample time for our brothers and sisters to, inshallah, prepare. If they need to do tajdeed al-fudu, they can do so. And asking my youngsters, my young brothers and sisters to help lay out the prayer mats, so inshallah we can offer the salat at its prime time. After the salat, we will have our the section as we do for Masail or Kahoot, and then we'll have our respected Sheikh Shafiq Hudda who will be addressing today's gathering. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله جل جلاله وتعالى أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم أشهد أن مولانا ومقتدانا وحادينا بالحق أمير المؤمنين عليا ولي الله أشهد أن عليا حجة الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله اللهم اجعل قلبي بارا وعملي سارا ورزقي دارا وأولادي أبرارا واجعلني من قبر نبيك محمد مصطفى مستقر وقرارا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين صلوات بر محمد و آل بیت محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. استغفر الله كل ضم وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين عليا ولي الله. أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وأبناءه المعصومين بالحق حجج الله. حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح حي على خير العمل حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. استغفر الله كل ضمن وأتوب إليه. Just reminding my sisters that there is a tisal. If you can see the big balloon or Sayyid Habib's hand, inshallah, that is where the first row is. This is where our feet are. So this is a connection, inshallah. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. استغفر الله كل ضم وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أنزلناه في ليلة القدر وما أدراك ما ليلة القدر. ليلة القدر خير من 1000 شهر. تنزل الملائكة والروح فيها بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله كما هو أهله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم إني أسألك موجبات رحمتك
وأزائم مغفرتك والنجاة من النار ومن كل بلية والفوز بالجنة والرضوان في دار السلام وجوار نبيك محمد عليه وآله السلام. اللهم ما بنا من نعمة فمنك لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليه يا أرحم الراحمين.
اللهم صل على محمد.
Inshallah, we'll pray Salatul Isha. Inshallah, if I can request you all to recite loud salawat before that for all those that are in need of our prayers, those who are sick for their complete and speedy recovery, for the haste, for the fulfillment of the hajat of all our believers, all of the lovers of Al-Bayt, for those who are away from their homes, for their safe return back to their homes, for those, for the safety and security and protection of our scholars, and for the increase in their tawfiqat, inshallah, respected Sheikh as well. And then the hastening of the advent of Al-Hujjah, and for all of us being considered among the Ashab, as Ansar, as Awan, let us recite aloud Salawat on Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين عليا ولي الله أشهد أن أمير المؤمنين وأبناءه المعصومين بالحق حجج الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح
حي على خير العمل، حي على خير العمل. قد قامت الصلاة، قد قامت الصلاة. الله أكبر، الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. استغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه، استغفر الله كل ضمن وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إنا أعطيناك الكوثر، فصل لربك وانحر، إن شانئك هو الأبتر. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، الرحمن الرحيم، مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم، صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد، الله الصمد، لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. كذلك الله ربنا. الله أكبر. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. رب اجعلني مقيم صلاتي ومن ذريتي، ربنا وتقبل دعاء. اللهم عجل لوليك الفرج. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. الحمد لله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله، سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. بحول الله وقوته أقوم وأقعد واركع واسجد. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي العظيم وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الله أكبر. أستغفر الله ربي وأتوب إليه. الله أكبر. سبحان الله سبحان ربي الأعلى وبحمده. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. الله أكبر. بسم الله وبالله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. السلام عليك أيها النبي ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام علينا وعلى عباد الله الصالحين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. أستغفر الله الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم الرحمن الرحيم ذو الجلال والإكرام وأتوب إليه. اللهم صل على
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. شجرة النبوات وموضع الرسالات ومختلف الملائكات ومعدن العلم وآل بيت الوحي. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الفلك الجاريات في لجاج الغامرات يومن من ركبا ويغرق من تركا. المتقدم لهم مارق والمتأخر عنهم زائق ولازم له لاحق. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الكافي الأصلي وغياث المستر المستكين وملجأ العاربين واسمة المعتصمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد صلاة كثيرة تكون لهم رضا ولحق محمد وآل محمد أداء وقضاء بحول منك وقوة يا رب العالمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد الطيبين الأبرار الأخيار الذين أوجبت حقوقهم وفرست طاعتهم وولايتهم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وأمر بالقلب بطاعتك ولا تخزني بمعصيتك وارزقني وواسطة من قرأت عليه من رزقك بما وسعت علي من فضلك ونشرت علي من عدلك وأحييتني تحت ظلك. وهذا شعر نبيك سيدي رسولك شبان الذي أحفظته منك برحمة ورضوان الذي كان رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم يدب في صيام وقيامي في ليالي وأيامي بخوا لك في إكرامي وإزامي إلى محل حمامي. اللهم فعنا على استنان بالسنة فيه والليل الشفاعة لدي. اللهم جل شفيعا مشفى وطريقا إليك معيا وجلني له مطيبا حتى ألقاك يوم القيامة عني راضيا وعن ذنوبي غاضيا. قد أوجبت لي منك رحمة ورضوان والزلتني دار القرار والأخيار. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Alhamdulillah, as Allah, with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again, we're able to hold these gatherings. Again, inshallah, in the coming week, the month of Shahr Ramadan will start. And we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He bestows us the opportunity to witness that month and able to hold the right of that month. Again, due to the best, the power, the tawfiq that He gives. I believe the prayer timings and the fast timings, the calendar would be given out to both brothers and sisters, inshallah. So the calendars are available regarding the timings for the prayers, and that the brothers and sisters can, inshallah, take them as well. Inshallah, we'll move on to the next part. That was prayer. Alhamdulillah, we started these masail on prayer, and we had covered a number of different topics in the sense that what are the wajib prayers, what are the timings of the prayers. In our last one, we spoke about the Friday as well. And in the last one, we spoke about the Maghrib and Isha prayer, when it begins, when it ends, in the case that someone forgets or in the state of helplessness, how it can be extended to dawn, inshallah. Right? So we'll have a kahoot right after this on these masail, just hopefully reviewing them as well. So today we'll talk about just one mas'ala regarding the morning or the subh fajr prayer. The time for the fajr prayer, so a whiteness, so once it's near the adhan call prayer, what happens is a whiteness in the sky moves upward from the east, right? Because the sun rises from the east, right? So first you have what we know as subh kadhib, the first dawn, or the, if you can call it, the fake dawn, all right? That's the first light, the white light that appears. Once that white light spreads across the horizon, that is what is known as subh sadiq, all right, or the true dawn, or the second dawn. So when this whiteness spreads across the horizon, that is the beginning of the fajr prayer time, and it is until the sun rises. So that is the time for fajr prayer. Yes. Yeah, so the true dawn, which is basically the subh sadiq. As I said, the whiteness first appears, that is the fake dawn, and then that spreads across. That's when the true dawn happens, right? Now, regarding some laws regarding to the time of prayers, and inshallah I'll speak because this is a bit of lengthy section, and just due to the brevity of time, inshallah I'll just share this in a brief manner. The first masala is one can start performing prayers when he attains certainty. So you need to make sure that the time has set in before you actually start your prayers. And there are many ways. So for example, either that person has attained a certainty himself, or either two just men inform him that the time has set in, all right? In short, the person needs to be certain that the time has set in. The other masala is if through one of the ways that were mentioned, for example, either he himself is certain or two people, and it becomes established for someone that the time of prayer has set in. So for example, if he has started with the Fajr prayer, that true dawn has set in, and he starts to perform his prayer. And then during the prayer, he realizes the time had not set in fact. Then in this case, his prayer is batil. In other words, he needs to make sure that the time has set in truly, and then he prays the prayer, right? If he has, and again, as I said, we will continue in the different cases as well. So the idea is they need to attain that certainty. The same applies if someone realizes after the prayer has been performed, he has completed the entire prayer before the time has set in, then again, the prayer is not valid. However, if during the prayer he realizes that the time has set in, or if he realizes after the prayer that during the prayer the time had set in, then the prayer is valid. So for example, in the case he had started his prayer and the time had not set in, but he thought that the time had set in. And then during the prayer he realizes, so sometimes, for example, the azan, he hears it once he has already started the prayer, during the prayer. Then if that is the case, then the prayer is valid. But if he has not reached that certainty and the time has set in after he has completed the prayer, then it is not valid. Then the person needs to do the prayer again once the time has set in. If the person is certain that the time has set in, so he's certain and he starts at prayer, but during the prayer he has this doubt whether the time has set in or not, his prayer is invalid. So that doubt will make his prayer invalid. All right. However, if during the prayer he was certain that the time has set in and doubts after completing the prayer whether the time had set in or not, his prayer is valid. Again, this is when the time has truly set in, but the person is having doubt. So that is the case. Now, if the time remaining for prayers is so little that by performing some of the mustahibat, so for example, qunut is the mustahab action in salat, right? So if there's only little time remaining, the person needs to make sure that they do not perform the mustahibat. Rather, they perform the wajibat in the salat, right? So in terms of those qunut, for example, or some certain adhkar that are mustahab, he refrains to what are wajib and then make sure that he prays within time. For example, if he does not perform that recommended act, his prayer is only valid. So for example, if by performing a qunut of the prayer would have performed after its prescribed time, he must not perform qunut, right? So that's, as I mentioned. If he does perform that recommended act, so if he did perform qunut, his prayer is only valid if he has at least performed one rak'ah during the time. So if he has done the second sajda of the first rak'ah, right? This rak'ah ends on the second sajda. So at least if he has done one rak'ah during time, then this would be considered valid. Okay? So that is the ruling for if there's some little time left. Now, someone who has time to perform one rak'ah of the prayer must pray that salat with the niyat of ada. It's not qada. So if he has enough time to pray at least one rak'ah, he won't pray it as with qada, he'll pray it with ada niyat. Okay? Again, as I said, at least if one rak'ah has been cleared within that time, then it is performed with ada. So that was a ruling for, inshallah, this pertaining to time. There are a number of other rulings, inshallah, with our coming sessions, we'll speak a bit about it. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala. So we'll move on to the Kahoot. Just to remind again, this is based on the rulings that we had discussed in the previous weeks, just to wrap it up so we can understand how far, inshallah. If there's something that needs clarification, we can also do so. The pin for Kahoot is 4115221. And one thing I also again want to mention is, as we are discussing, first of all, these are the rulings of Sayyid Sistani Hafidhullah. If you are following some other marja or mujtahid, make sure you know the rulings for that particular mujtahid, right? Because you've done your research, you've understood that particular mujtahid is the a'lam, the most knowledgeable one, so you do follow that rulings. The other thing is, do keep in mind the terminologies, right? We've discussed this in our very first session, what mustahab means, what makruh means. So for example, just to give you an idea, makruh is something that is disliked, but is there a punishment for that? No. Okay. So again, if, for example, if something happens, as some scholars mention, in some cases the thawab would be slightly less, but it does not mean it cannot happen, for example. All right. If there is certain action, it would be better that you not do it, but again, it does not mean that the person is worthy of that punishment. So just make note of that. Again, wajib ihtiyat is that the mujtahid has not given a ruling in that. All right, he does not have that. He hasn't come to that conclusion that he needs to give a fatwa on that. Again, with the permission of the Sheikh, inshallah. But he gives his recommendation as ihtiyat wajib or ihtiyat mustahab. Right. So just make sure, because at times we need to correct ourselves. We need to purify ourselves, inshallah, and then understand this, right? Because at times what happens is, again, with the permission of Sheikh, people hold others accountable very strictly on masail. So just to make a note of it, right? So we'll begin with our Kahoot then. All right. So as still brothers and sisters are joining in, again, we'll take this opportunity to pray again. Those who have gathered over here, we'll recite the ayah karima 5 times, as I mentioned, for all those hajjats, for those the sick amongst our community, for the travelers, for the scholars and inshallah for the Imam of our time, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعاه ويكشف السوء 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 اللهم صل على. So there will be 10 questions on this particular Kahoot. As I mentioned, this is on the second, so the previous sessions pertaining to Salat. Some regarding the Friday prayer, some regarding the time of prayers. So how many rak'ah does Salatul Jum'ah have? Is it 1? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 2? So Salatul Jum'ah, how many rak'ah or how many units do we pray? So it's a 2 rak'at prayer that is prayed. So we have Musaddiqa currently in the lead. The next question. Which of the following is not a condition for Friday prayer to be wajib, to be obligatory? The Imam must be adil and all other requirements. Number of people must be at least 5. Number of people must be at least 7. And the time must have set in. Again, which is not a condition for Friday prayer to be wajib? So the number of people must be at least 5, right? If the 5 is met, then it satisfies, and in that case, that wajib is being fulfilled. All right, so Ali is in the lead right now. The next question, true or false? The number of people must be 5, not including the Imam. Is that true or false? So there needs to be at least 5. Does that include the Imam or not? So the number of people must be 5, not including the Imam. Is that statement true or false? So it's false. It is 5, including the Imam. So we have the Kahoot named Winter in the lead. The next question. Friday prayer, Salatul Jama'ah, will not be valid. Salatul Jumu'ah will not be valid if it is performed in congregation. If there is another Friday prayer being prayed at the same time, 7 kilometers away. If 2 sermons are given before prayer. If Imam is sitting while delivering sermons. So the Imam needs to stand. It is necessary for the Imam to stand for giving sermons. And between the sermons, he needs to sit down. The distance is 5.5 kilometers, right? So that needs to be maintained if there are 2 Salatul Jummah being placed. So the Kahoot named Dalida is in the lead right now. The next question, true or false? During the occultation of the Imam in his ghaiba, Friday prayer is obligatory for all. Is that true or false? During the Imam's ghaiba, Friday prayer is obligatory for all. So that is false. So the person has the option, right, that they can pray either Salatul Jummah or they can pray Dhuhr prayer, right? So the Kahoot name says who is in the lead. The next question. Which of the following are exempted from Friday prayer when it becomes obligatory for all? Again, choose the best answer. Choose the best answer, right? So the sick, the travelers, the women, all of them. So which of the following are exempted from Friday prayer when it becomes obligatory for all? So all of these categories, and again, with a number of others, those who are blind, those who find it difficulty to come. And as we had shared that list, so we have the Kahoot name says who's still in the lead. The next question, true or false? If someone mistakenly performs Isha prayer before Maghrib and realizes after prayer, his prayer is valid. Is this true or false? So if someone mistakenly performs Salatul Isha before Salatul Maghrib and realizes after the prayer, his prayer is valid. So the answer is true, right? Then after that, he will pray Salatul Maghrib. But if it was during the prayer, then he needs to make his intention or change his intention to Maghrib, right? So hopefully that's a good review. We have Ali in the lead. The next question, true or false? A person can start prayer if he doubts whether it has set in. So something that we had repeated today. Is that true or false? A person can start prayer if he doubts whether it has set in. True or false? So that is false, right? He needs to be certain. Even after, when starting the prayer, as we mentioned today, if he was certain, but during the prayer he was doubtful, then his prayer would be invalid. So Ali is still in the lead. The next question. Under normal circumstances, the time for Maghrib and Isha prayer is till dawn, 12 a.m., midnight, or 3 a.m. Under normal circumstances, the time for Maghrib and Isha prayer is till dawn, 12 a.m., 3 a.m., or midnight. So it is actually midnight. 12 a.m. is not always midnight, right? So we need to calculate that as he had illustrated last time. And the last question for today, and Ali is in the lead for the last question for today. If someone willfully does not perform Maghrib or Isha prayer by midnight, he must, on obligatory precaution, pray before Fajr with the intention of both Ada and Qada, pray before Fajr with the intention of Qada, pray before Fajr with the intention of Ada, or pray without making an intention of Ada or Qada, either. So if someone willfully, so the answer is praying before the Fajr prayer without the either intention that it's Ada or Qada. Remember the last mas'ala that we had discussed last time? That if someone willfully, intentionally does not pray, then he needs to pray that before Fajr. The intention wouldn't be that I'm praying Ada or Qada, right? So for today, we have on the third position on the podium, memory, Kahoot name memory. The second Kahoot name says who. And the winner of today's Kahoot was Ali. If you can recite aloud Salawat Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. So inshallah with this, I'll request our respected Sheikh Shafiq Hudda to address this gathering. Aloud Salawat al Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين خالق السماوات والأرض إلها واحدا أحدا صمدا لم يتخذ صاحبة ولا ولدا والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين رحمة للعالمين طه وياسين بالقاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين المنتجبين ورحمة الله على محبيهم ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه وتبارك في كتابه الحكيم وفرقانه المجيد وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون اللهم صل على محمد بفرمایید صلوات على محمد وآل محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد يا إمام الرحمن شراية خلالي إذا ما سواك جنبي أما صالي المرأة
لنا خدا شناسی برود و خیلی این دین پاچایی را به دست کرم جزارا نباشد توانمش گفت نه خدا توانمش کن و تاییدن چه گویم شیدا فتارا دست الله بالصلواتی
اللهم صل ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Respected sisters and brothers, my youngsters, my elders, Assalamu alaikum jamia wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. First of all, I just want to once again compliment and appreciate the effort and time you put in for the Kahoot Games. Today, being a little bit of a, I think we can say a historic day of our community here, trying out a Friday lecture as opposed to a Thursday lecture that's the normal. I understand that change is always challenging and difficult for many of us, and it's something that perhaps every community will or needs to go through to see what might be the best for the entire community, the ummah and the membership. And of course, we're always open to discussions and suggestions, and whatever is, inshallah, as we say, the best way to get the message across will be something that, inshallah, we need to look at for the betterment of the whole community rather than the betterment of just tradition or what we have. And the reason why I say that is a lot of times, change becomes difficult because of the fact that we're used to certain things, whether it is in our own homes. And I know that sometimes when I am in my own home and things are different in the home, I sometimes become uncomfortable. And I know there are certain characters on television that were also depicted in the same way, that they don't like change. Sometimes it is for the better, sometimes it's not for the better, and only time will tell what is the best. In today's discussion, I wanted to mention that it is a discussion. It's not going to be a majlis. I'm just going to mention a few points at the beginning, at the outset. And in my talk with Sayyid Hashmat Agha, I had mentioned that, inshallah, I'll speak just for a few minutes, and then we'll open it up to a little bit of a discussion or question and answer. Keep in mind that the question and answer will be on a basic level pertaining to the month of Ramadan al-Sharif and the actual fasting as well. There are a couple of small issues that Ayatollah Sistani mentions that I will mention, I will clarify as well about the fasting and some of the things that invalidates or makes the fast batil. And at the same time, in my beginning discussion, I'll give an overview of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about fasting. So with that, inshallah, I will move forward. And the ayat of the Holy Quran that I began with today, that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who believe, O believers, kutiba alaykumus siyam, fasting has been prescribed for you, kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum, as it was prescribed for those before you, la'allakum tattaqun, so that you may acquire taqwa, piety, God consciousness, God fearingness, God awareness. Now, beautifully, these ayats, and those of you whose memory is good, and you remember my last year's discussion again briefly, which I'm hoping it'll be none of you here, inshallah, but if you do, then alhamdulillah. In these 4 verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala basically limits the verse to a certain group of people, gives an order, gives a consolation to the order, and gives a justification for the order. Rarely does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever do it in this way. When Allah ta'ala says, Aqibus salat, pray the namaz. That's it. The order is given, go pray namaz. No ifs, buts, or ands about it. Wa'atu zakat, give the zakat. Why do we have to give zakat? Why Allah? Who has to give zakat? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not make that very clear. And then the reasoning or the rationale. So in these verses, Allah ta'ala gives all 4. He then divides the world into the group of believers to whom he is addressing. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. As opposed to Ya ayyuhan nas, Ya ayyuhar rasul, Ya kul ya ayyuhal kafirun. No, none of those. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. If you are a believer, open your ears, Allah wants to talk to you. Then what does Allah Ta'ala say? Kutiba alaykum as-siyam. Fasting is prescribed for you, is ordained for you, is made compulsory upon you. I like the word prescription. Fasting is prescribed for you because it gives an idea of something that will make something better. A prescription, you go to the doctor, you are sick, they give you a prescription, you take that prescription to the pharmacist fills the prescription, tells you how to take the tablets or the syrup or the medicine, and inshallah, after 7 days, 9 days, 11 days, or 30 days, you should feel better. And that's why I like the meaning of كتب عليكم الصيام fast is prescribed for you. And then Allah Ta'ala says, كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم, that as it was prescribed for those before you as well. So don't think that you are the only ones we are keeping hungry and thirsty. If you look at, for example, the Hindu madhab, you will see a certain form of fasting. If you look at Catholicism, Catholic religion, you will see a kind of fasting as well. They can have orange juice, or they can have clear liquids, or they can have fruits, but they have a kind of fasting as well. You look at the Jewish community. From the time of Nabi Allah Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, they've also got a kind of a concept or a theory about fasting. Allah Ta'ala in the month of Ramadan for the believers give a very different concept. It took the fasting to a very different level, or a different understanding altogether. While other faiths and religions talked about preventing and refraining from food, and all of the religions have seen, so for example, food is something we enjoy. We need, but we also enjoy it, right? I'm the first one to tell you I love my food. They say some people eat to live, some people live to eat. I'm probably both of them. Huh? I live to eat, okay? As long as Allah keeps me alive, I'm going to eat whatever I can. Oh, inshallah, whatever. Halal. Bale? I invite you, but inshallah, I come to your house for good food. So we see that food is something we enjoy. And so we have seen that other religions, they understand that food is something we enjoy. So when they say that, okay, in order to get closer to God, closer to Krishna, closer to Nirvana, closer to Jehovah, they say, stay away from what you enjoy. And this applies in various other aspects as well. So now what you do is you are refraining yourself from something that you enjoy in order to get to a higher purpose. Now remember one thing, everybody's level of taqwa, iman, aqidah, belief, and ability is different. Okay, so some people will be able to, for example, live in a shed. They want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will leave their house, they will leave their food, they will leave their car, they will leave everything, and they will work on focusing on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you look at, for example, the monks or the nuns who live in a monastery or a nunnery, they've left everything in the dunya. They only worship Allah, they only worship God, they only do the ibadat, ya Allah, ya Allah, ya Allah, ya Allah, they only do dhikr, and they have no attachment to the rest of the world whatsoever. I was just reading the biography, as I have told you many times, I love reading biographies. And I was reading the biography of this one orphan, and it was interesting because they said that this was the only person in the world, and I just can't recall his name. I don't know if you will remember this, Miktal, when we were talking about it. He was the only person, when he was born, his mother passed away. So this was the one person he was brought up. He was basically left by his father at a monastery, and he grew up his whole life never having seen a woman, never having seen a female. Up until the day he died, he was the only person in history who has never seen a female. His mother had died, so he had not seen her, and basically that was it. And they were saying that any of these things made his world was concentrating on worshiping God. There was nothing else he knew or he found enjoyment in. So hey, when you see how people find their way towards God, they have all these things that they say, give up the pleasures. But not everybody can do everything. Not everybody can do all of that. Some people say that, oh, I will, and I always have this discussion, especially in the month of Muharram. I have gone to some communities that in the month of Muharram, for example, the 10 days of Muharram, they will have the best foods. The best food, mashallah, they will have meat and chicken and this and that and rice and all kinds of different pilaus. I hope I'm not making anybody hungry because you should have eaten before you came, right? Inshallah. Okay, you did that. Okay, and I've gone to other communities where they've had just simple dal chawal. You have lentils and beans and soup, and that was it for the whole ashara, the whole 10 days. And I was looking at this dichotomy, and it almost seemed like a contradiction to somebody sitting like this. One Jamaat I had gone to, they had the best of foods for 10 days, and another community I went to, the same 10 days, but they had the most cheapest of food. He said, no, For Abu Abdullah, we will give the best we can. We want to do the best we can for Abu Abdullah. We will give whatever we have got. We have got thousands of dollars. We will spend all of those dollars to make the best niyaz for those who are the azadar of Abu Abdullah. Fine, nobody's going to argue with that. When I ask these community members, why are you doing this? Just only dal, chawal, only beans and lentil. They says, no, this is a time of us remembering the suffering of Abu Abdullah. We want to try and make sure that we just eat only enough that we are surviving so that we can do the azadari of Abu Abdullah. We don't want to be glamorous. We don't want to have all this. Now, neither one is incorrect. You cannot say that these are right, these are wrong, these are right, these are wrong. No, you see that everyone's abilities, everyone's concepts or thoughts are different. Now, look at how Islam took the level of fasting. It's not just a matter of refraining from food and drink. Let me ask you, and I know that I'm going to try not to overlap when you come into the masail about fasting, but let me ask you something. Yes, fasting is a way of getting taqwa. Fasting is a way of getting closer to Allah. We stop eating, we don't eat in the month of Ramadan al-Sharif for those 30 days, daylight hours from before, of course, Subh al-Sadiq, until just at Maghrib time, just a few minutes after Maghrib, inshallah, but Maghrib time is the time we break our fast. Now, you can't eat, you can't drink, you can't. Now, let us say, for example, my mistake. I'm in my day-to-day. I go all of a sudden, it's month of Ramadan. I go like this, completely inadvertently. What happens to my fast? Say, I don't even have to do istighfar, do I? Inadvertently, by mistake, I do it. My fast is stolen. That means Islam is reminding us that fasting is not just refraining from food and water, not only refraining from those things, but it's to get us to a different level that is much higher than just looking at this. Because we've got other, some of the fanatics and the extremists, they say, oh, no, even looking at water will make your fast batil. We don't subscribe to that. We look at what Ali Muhammad alayhi said. In fact, to my mothers and my sisters and my daughters, if you are feeding your child, your baby, for example, and you have to put the morsel in your mouth to make it soft and chew it and make it, palatable for that baby, what will that do to your fast? Nothing. Your fast is still okay, as long as you don't intentionally swallow. Intentionally swallow. You can put that bite in your mouth, chew it and make it soft, and then put it in the baby's mouth. And not only insan, the ulama, the maraja, and I can show you the masal if you want to see it, even if you have a bird or an animal, and that animal needs to have that softness, you're allowed to put it in your mouth and squeeze it and then feed it to the animal. So not even insan. So Islam is reminding us that the whole concept of fasting, kutiba alaykumus siyam, is not just the eating and drinking, but rather to build our iman and our taqwa to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is why there is a famous story of Rasulullah in the month of Ramadan. He was walking with his ashab, and there was a lady there who was abusing her servant, verbally abusing her servant, very angrily. The Prophet says, have you had your lunch? She goes, Ya Rasulullah, it is the month of Ramadan. I'm fasting. The Prophet says, that is fasting. That is not fasting. Your fast is batil. If you're abusing your servant like this, then your fast is nothing. There's no value to it. It's not just refraining from food and drink. It's not just doing this or that, but rather getting yourself developed and built up to a much higher level. Bale? To do ghiba, to talk backbite, angry, any of those things. Jazakallah khayr mamnu. Okay? So this is what it is. So what I wanted to open up now today to is just basically some of the basic elements of fasting. If you want to ask that, this is the time that you have. So I will, inshallah, allocate about 10 minutes or 15 minutes, as long as the mu'minin are not tired, to answer those questions. As I said, if mu'minin don't mind, let us keep to the fasting, inshallah. If there are other questions on other subjects, we can discuss that at another time. But because the month of Ramadan is coming and today is the last Jummah, or was the last Jummah before Maha Ramadan al-Sharif, then let us, inshallah, limit it to this.
So there'll be a mic on the sister side as well, and on the brother side as well. If you have any questions, again, with the permission, so you can please feel free to put forward your questions. As the Sheikh had requested, if you can, just for the brevity of time and as the issue is coming up, to keep it focused on fasting, inshallah, so that they can be addressed.
Sayyid Yusuf is by the ladies' door, so if one of the sisters can please come and take the mic from him, we would appreciate that.
If on the brother side, if there are any questions pertaining to fasting.
Inch.
Like question that we always have, but we always get different answer for brushing while you have your fasting.
Okay, there are certain things, and I think I have to sincerely compliment Sayyid Taha for beautifully explaining the difference between makruhat and the muharramat or the haramat. And again, here also there's an interesting discussion by the ulama. Brushing or miswak, as they refer to it in the books of the terminology of fiqh, is regarded as makruh according to a majority of the opinion of the ulama. But sometimes people have to, for example, go to school, go to work, and they do need to brush. So there's nothing that will invalidate the fast, even if sometimes some of the toothpaste or some of the water might inadvertently. Now, I always mention inadvertently or unintentionally, not deliberately, swallows or goes down. There's nothing wrong with the fast. And if you do need to do it, my recommendation is always to make sure that, as Sayed mentioned, makruh means that, to avoid it. And again, there are certain circumstances and reasonings behind that. But as far as the normal brushing that we do, it is fine to do, and it will not invalidate the fast in any way whatsoever. Yes, please.
You have time of imsak. If we wake up a bit late and it's still time for imsak, but not time for azan, can we still eat while imsak, or we cannot pass the time for imsak?
The end time for eating is what we call imsak. Imsak literally means the forbidden, or the what you get called borderline. So up until imsak time, you can eat. Now, if we were living in a place where we could actually ascertain the exact time of subh as-sadiq, then you can actually eat right up until subh as-sadiq. You finish your last morsel, so finish whatever is in your mouth, and start your salat al-fajr immediately after that. The problem with us here in North America, and sometimes we have some very interesting discussions on astronomy and the northern lights, and what we're, some of the challenges we have in North America. And I will also clarify one other thing with the timetable in just a minute as well, is that because it is very difficult for us here to ascertain the true subh sadiq as opposed to subh kadhab, which Sayyid was just talking about today. So because of that difference, or that problem, the problematic timetable, we always have to keep that little bit of a leeway that we almost consider as a wajibat. And I have had many discussions, including with Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi and various other ulama, that even the timing that you have got in the timetable that we've distributed, that shows the time of Salatul Fajr. If we knew that this was really the time of Salatul Fajr, you could actually eat right up until that time. But we know that that is the time that Salatul Fajr has already set in. So if you eat right up until that time that the Fajr time is in the timetable, then your fast actually is batil. There's no doubts about that. So, we've kept a 5-minute gap between the imsak and that, and I'm still not quite comfortable, but because more senior ulama than myself have done it, so I keep my mouth closed in that. But if you look at some of the original timetables that we had in the 90s and the early 2000s, including one that I had based on my own astronomical research and conclusion, I had actually felt more comfortable with almost a 15-minute difference there. That, okay, you know what? Then you know that if you're eating 2 or 3 minutes into that imsak time that's there, you're still okay. If you recite your fajr 1 or 2 minutes before that time that the subh sadiq time is there, we know that that's the time that has already set in. But as I said, right now we've used the most precautionary times in this timetable that we have printed with, as I said, with the discussion with the senior ulama. The other thing, the thing that I wanted to clarify is that please keep in mind the timetable that we have is a guideline. Okay, I know that people have a habit that if Maghrib time is 7:51, they will not wait till 7:52 to put the date in their mouth. 7:51 means 7:51. Keep in mind one thing, that this is a guideline. The actual Maghrib, you should be outside looking when the sun has set and when the Maghrib, the redness has appeared. Same thing with Subh Sadiq. Many of the, especially our Ahl Sunnah brothers, but many of our ulama actually mentioned that in the Tawzul Masail, that the difference you can tell when you're in a dark place between a white thread and a black thread. If you can tell the difference, Subh Sadiq is there, time for Salatul Fajr is there. Now, because we don't have time to do that, we may not be able to go out into the fields and out into the boonies and look for the true place where there's no artificial lights, and then look for the actual Subh Sadiq, because you're supposed to look for Subh Sadiq. You're supposed to wait for Maghrib. Because we don't have that time, these timetables are to make our lives easier, inshallah. Okay. Sisters, any questions? If you want to write them down, I can ask Sayyid Yusuf or Sayyid Ali to come and pick them up. But if you have a question, I can answer.
Assalamu alaikum. We do have a couple of questions.
Oh, alhamdulillah.
The first question is, if someone has to take meds with food every single day, and that means that they can't fast, does that mean that they don't fast for the rest of their lives, essentially speaking?
One of the things that, again, I'm glad that came up, because I was going to explain upon whom fasting is wajib and upon whom fasting is exempt. Again, you're going to be doing masal, but if it's okay with you, then I'll do it here. So if anybody, for example, is ill, now you see, sometimes I've heard some scholars say, oh, elderly don't have to fast, travelers don't have to. Just being elderly doesn't make you exempt from fasting. Keep that in mind. Just being old age is not necessarily as if you are old and are ill and need to eat, that exempts you from fasting. Okay, keep in mind, age is not a factor when it comes to fasting, except when you're below Baligh. So if you are in a stage where you have to take medicine, or if you're a diabetic and your doctor has told you you must eat every 3 hours or you must eat every 4 hours, then in that case, you are exempt, in that category in which you are exempt from fasting. And at the end of Ramadan al-Sharif, the holy month of Ramadan, you would give what is known as fidya, not kafara. Every Maha Ramadan in our office, we are inundated, and alhamdulillah, my staff is well equipped now to explain to people what is kafara, what is fidya, what is kafara, what is fidya. Not everybody who has calling us, I have to give kafara, how much is the kafara? Sister will actually ask them that what is the situation? Do you have to give kafara or you have to give fidya? Kafara is, I'm fasting, it's the month of Ramadan, and all of a sudden that hamburger looks very tempting. I don't have any medical reason. I just feel like eating those fries. I eat them. That is kafara. If I'm sick, I'm ill, or something has happened, or I need medicine, that is fidya. Okay. So to my young sister, if somebody does have to eat, then they would be exempt from fasting. And if that is something that they have to do for their lifetime, then by all means. If somebody, for example, has been told that they have to eat every, let's say, 6 hours or 8 hours, then what they would do is they would not fast in the month of Ramadan al-Sharif. And if there is a time in November, December when they are able to, then they would actually make up the fast at that time. According to Sayyid Sistani, they would give a fidya as well, but that fast would become compulsory on them if they're able to do so. But if they have to eat, as you mentioned, every 3-4 hours and for the rest of their life, then they would be exempt from fasting altogether. Your next question?
If someone travels outside for work, such as like long distance, do they fast or are they exempt from fasting in the sense of like, do they break their fast before they leave? So it's an everyday going to work, let's say coming from here all the way to Mississauga every single day. Would they fast because technically it's an everyday thing, or do they break their fast?
There's actually that question is in two parts. The first part is that you're talking about somebody who's traveling or goes to school or goes for work or who their job is traveling. They are not exempt from fasting. They have to fast, and just as a side note, their salat will also be full as well. So they would be fasting. If anybody who is traveling more than, let's say, for example, in a 7-day week, 3 days or more, they would be known as kafirus safar, a regular traveler. So they would have to fast at that time. The other thing I wanted to clarify, and this is actually a misconception that I myself had when I was younger, unfortunately, and I've had to make up a lot of my own fast. Keep in mind that, for example, I intend to travel to Toronto tomorrow morning. Tomorrow's the 2nd of Ramadan, for example, Holy Ramadan, for example. So I have a nice heavy breakfast, and then I get in my car and I start going to Toronto. No, you have to first cross Hudda Tarakhus. First, your intention is to travel, not something you're doing every day or on an ongoing basis. And once you've crossed Hudda Tarakhus, then you can break your fast at that time. Like I said, this is a misconception. So keep in mind that you don't break your fast first and then travel. In the course of traveling, you would be breaking your fast as soon as you cross what is the Hudda Tarakhus. The Had means the border of your city, your city line, okay? From which the last house is.
And one of the sisters are asking, would the ruling be the same if, let's say they're going, it's twice a month, they are going long distance. Does the ruling remain the same in regards to their fast?
Absolutely not. If they're going twice a month, once a month, even 5 times a month, in that case, if they have left, now what you have to remember is that they have left before Dhuhr, okay? They leave before Dhuhr and they're going for the travel. So that day's fast will be not valid as soon as they cross Hudda Tarakhus, which is the number of farsakh outside of their city. Their fast is basically broken. Keep in mind, eating or drinking is not our criteria for the breaking of the fast. I know some of my other Muslim friends who they, right at Maghrib time or right at sunset time, they will have to put a date in their mouth. They say that the fast becomes batil, the fast becomes makruh, the fast becomes this if you don't break it right away. There is no such thing. As soon as Maghrib comes, your fast is broken automatically. You don't want to eat till midnight, that's between you and your stomach, but your fast is broken at the time of Maghrib. As soon as you cross Hudda Tarakhus, your fast is invalidated, so you still have to make up one qada for that one fast, unless you are going for something haram. Then there's a slightly different masail. If, let's say, I decide to go to Niagara Falls to go to the casino, my intention is to go to the casino, my intention is to go eat a haram burger, or my intention is to drink something haram alcohol or something. In that case, I still have to fast, and if I do break it with one of those haram things, then there's all 3 kafaras become compulsory on me, okay? The 3 kafaras are fasting 60 days, of which 31 must be consecutive, feeding 60 people, or freeing a slave. In today's era, freeing a slave does not apply, so the other 2 kafaras are still there: fasting 60 or feeding 60 people. I hope I clarified that, sister.
Thank you, you did. Is it okay if we keep going?
As long as I think the boys have one question, so I have to be fair to them as well. Otherwise, they're not going to give me any more water or snacks. So I'll let the boys have one question, and then I'll pass it back to you, sister, inshallah. Okay?
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. If it's indirectly with what I have said, that's fine.
So like regarding the fasting and namaz, for example, someone's majboor and they have to like travel, but they're not sure where they're going to be all the time. Sometimes they're Mississauga, sometimes they're London, but for like a period of 7 days or more, you said, right?
Yeah.
Would they still pray full and fast as well?
Yes. So if somebody is traveling, like I said, more than 3 days a week, so say 4 days or more in a week on an ongoing basis. Okay. So not just 3 days in a month, not like that. In that case, they would actually be required to have full salat and fast.
What if that only happened during the month of Ramadan, if they were majboor to like travel at that time? For example, they're not a regular traveler during the other times of the year.
Okay, but again, the same criteria would apply. So are they going to be, let's say, for example, in the month of Ramadan, they have to travel 4 days a week, every week for that month, then they would still be considered as kathir safar, because the ulama look at the month and the average times of days that you have traveled in that month. So
and then namaz would be full too.
Namaz would be full and their fast would be completed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, sister, yes, go ahead.
Other than praying, reciting Quran, and giving money to charity, what are some other ways we could increase our good deeds and tawab in the month of Ramadan?
Um, Very good question, mashallah, because the month of Ramadan is a time for us to do as much good deeds as we can. And the definition or the meaning of good deeds actually is Allah Ta'ala opens up a lot of things, that even sleeping becomes a good deed. Breathing is also a good deed, inshallah, as long as we're not doing something haram or thinking something haram or forbidden. So some of the things that are strongly recommended, as you also clarified, various salats are there, whether it's Salatul Layl, Namaz Shab, Tahajjud prayers. Giving charity is strongly recommended, especially to those who are near and dear to you, your non-dependent family members, friends, people you know might be in difficulties. Recitation of tasbih, dhikr, istighfar is also very strongly recommended, because it is the month of the Holy Quran. Every ayat of the Quran that you recite is equivalent to 70 ayats during any other time. Helping people, just improving one's taqwa. If you, for example, another very good deed is if you know that two people are not getting along, making peace between them, helping them out, cheering up somebody who might be feeling down, somebody who might be the victim of difficulties or abuse, and helping them in their situation. All of those things are, the one is our obligations or our responsibilities to other insan. One is our dealings with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The month of Ramadan gives us a chance to balance both. So, to do as many extra namazes as we can, salats as we can, and helping each other to the best of our abilities. Inviting people for iftar. I know that a lot of times people say, well, here, alhamdulillah, everybody is well to do, everybody is okay, we don't need to feed anybody, nobody is in need. But the Prophet said that, even if you invite somebody and just give them one date and a glass of water, that still counts as iftar, and you get the thawab of breaking somebody's fast. I know that many mu'mineen have a habit of bringing dates to the Husainiya, to the masjid, to the Imam Bargah, or to giving it to others. All of those things are very recommended deeds. Doesn't mean that you have to invite them for a full dinner. Just giving them a date or a glass of water to help them break their fast, or a bit of salt, that also gives you the thawab of inviting somebody for the month of Ramadan. Ali,
Okay, so we had one more question. What if for somebody who is traveling one time out of the entire week, they travel out of the Kathir of Safar, like they travel out of that range. So 52 times a year they're traveling. Would there one day be full, like for fast or no?
Sorry, I want to
Oh.
question a bit more. Sometimes it's the same question.
Okay. Take the mic if you don't want to see the
Sometimes this could be like twice a week. We don't know. For example, I'm a truck driver.
Yeah.
Sometimes I go once a week to go to Mississauga. Sometimes they ask us to go 5 days a week or 4 days a week. We never know. The whole year is like that. Sometimes we go 5 days, sometimes 4 days, sometimes only 1 day. So what should
Okay, because his Sayyid's explanation was a bit different. That would have a different answer, and what you just explained now will have a slightly different answer. Coming back to Sayyid Ali's point. Okay, maybe I understood it also, forgive me. So what you would do is you take the average of the month. So if in that average of the month, you are traveling more than, say, for example, 20 days, this has been like the criteria that has been used, between 18 to 20 days. If you're traveling more than that, then you would be considered as Kathir of Safar. So you look at the month average. So 1 week, you might be going 1 day a week. The next week, you might be going 5 days. So you look at the monthly average based on, for example, what you had the previous month. And that's how you would apply it and decide whether you are Kathir of Safar or not. Sorry, when you were, I thought you were talking about Hudda Tarakhus as opposed to Kathir of Safar. So, for example, let's say, for example, 4 days you're home in this week, but you know that next week, 5 days you're going to be out, then you would be considered as Kathir of Safar if that average is maintained through the month.
So it's once a week, then it means that
if it's like, as he was mentioning, say 52 times a year, and there is, let's say, for example, you have to go 52 times in 3 months, and then the rest of the 9 months, you're just, in your own city, then you would not be considered as Kathir of Safar. Okay. So there has to be some degree of continuity and how your average months go. Based on what I was given, It is known as a return journey of 8 farsakh, I believe. That was the so 4 farsakh. So you're talking about the journey itself, right? Not Hudda Tarakhus. 22 covers one way, so 45 kilometers. So if you're going, based on my research here, so for example, anybody who lives in Kitchener, Waterloo, if they were to go on the 401, based on this is strictly my research, okay, so I don't want to say that this is right or wrong, but as soon as you cross, as soon as you pass exit 299, which is the Guelph Highway 6 South Hamilton Guelph exit, to me that is about the Hudda Tarakhus that would qualify you to have to break your fast after that. So that's about 22 kilometers outside of the boundary of Kitchener Waterloo, where the last building of Kitchener Waterloo would be. So by that time you've crossed over. Let's say you're going to Mississauga and then coming back. If you come back before Dhuhr, then you could have fasted that same day. But if you come back after Dhuhr, that day that you've left before Dhuhr, then your fast is invalidated. So 22 kilometers, yeah, 4 farsakh. So it's about 22, give or take, 22 kilometers. One way. 45 return. No, but from the last house of Kitchener. That's why I said exit 299, because if you look at where the boundary of Kitchener is, according to Sayyid Sistani and most of the living Maharaja, except Rehbar has got a slightly different masail, but the last house or the border of Kitchener is where you start judging from. That's another important thing, inshallah. So please keep in mind. So the hudud of Kitchener, not where your house is. Marhum Imam Khomeini's fatwa was slightly different on that, but Sayyid Sistani, Abul Qasim al-Khoyi, and many of the contemporary Maharaja that most of us would be in the Taqdeedain, considered from the border of your city. So from that last house in Kitchener. Kitchener Cross, yeah, that would about be the last area where you would see those last houses, and that's where you would start judging the distance from.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Homer Watson 401 is the one that I usually use as because my father's house is there. So in that exit, so the last house or the border of Kitchener, because as soon as you cross that place, then you're out of the boundary of the Kitchener, the jurisdiction of Kitchener out there. Now you're in Cambridge. They're actually having some discussion on whether to merge Kitchener, Waterloo, and Cambridge into one mega city. If that happens, then Hudda Tarakhus will be exit 3 to.
For example, 20, 22, 25 kilometers.
Gee.
Everything is okay, normal. You go, for example, 10 kilometers there, past 22 kilometers, you come back. Why are you in Ramadan?
What has been used as the criteria, and again the same thing for Qasr Namaz and Salah, is that this was what the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt had given us as the criteria for that. Why, how, that answer I do not have, and I cannot, I would be only giving my own thoughts on that. But this has been the, because people now say that now it's so easy to go 22 kilometers. You do 15 minutes, you're already there. But Allahu Alam, Allah knows best, inshallah, why the salat is qasr, why the fasting will not be done. Maybe one of the reasons is because when people have to travel, the fasting might become zahmat or difficult for them. Maybe that's why the 2 rakats, 50% discount on Zohar, Asr, Isha. Based on what I was, huh?
That's
Yeah.
question. I might be hard to answer. The last, let's say if you're going towards north, the last house will count from Waterloo. If I live in Kitchener, I will count from Kitchener onward.
Again, if you're living in Kitchener, then you would take to the last house in Kitchener, because currently, even though they are known as twin cities and united cities, you are living in Kitchener. They have their own mayor, they have their own boundaries, their own city council. Kitchener has its own city council. That's what the ulama's criteria is. So the last house of Kitchener, even if it merges with the next house of Waterloo, you look at the last house of Kitchener and take it from there, inshallah. My time is up, so now this is your time, because I had promised the question answer 15 minutes. I've actually gone 2 minutes over. So if you guys are not tired, I'm at your service, inshallah.
The women still have questions, if that's okay.
As long as the president is okay, I have no issue. Inshallah. Go ahead, please, sister.
There's a question regarding medications that need to be inhaled, such as asthma inhalers. Do they break the fast because they're technically taken through the oral route through the mouth?
And if it's an inhaler, I mean, most of the Maharaja's opinion, including Sayyid Sistani, is that that is not a problem. Inhalers are not a problem. Asthma inhalers, as well as any injections also, are not an issue according to Sayyid Sistani. If we do have another session on this, and I'm not trying to impose myself, I know Sayyid is here, so he's doing a fantastic job. I didn't get into any of the things that invalidate the fast. So maybe next week or another time, or when we have an opportunity, whoever the speaker is, I think that would be something that will be important to cover, inshallah. Because there is one, I mean, I shouldn't say small, but one Masail where Sayyid Sistani is actually very interestingly different. Most of the Maharajas say that submerging the entire head invalidates the fast. Sayyid doesn't. So that's something that is quite different, because those who are used to, including myself, Abul Qasim al-Khoy and other Maharaja, including Rahbar and Marhum Imam, if you submerge your whole head, your fast is batil. Sayyid says it's just makruh, it's not validated. Okay? If you want me to just go over the list, I can do that. There's no issue. I'm at your service. The sisters are okay? Okay. Sayyid Hashmat says that we'll be here till inshallah namaz shab time, and we might have suhoor here as well. No, I think this will be because the month of Ramadan is coming. I'm just joking. Forgive me. I didn't mean to be. I will just go over the. I don't want to make a mistake, so I will go over the. Sayyid, this is. I know that you always take my permission, but this time I'm going to take your permission, because you have been working on these masail and you're doing a fantastic job. So I don't want to. I will just go over the list and of the things that make the fast batil. Okay. I will only give explanation in those that need to, because we have. I mean, we have children here, but they're also mature. So I will make sure that I do it not discreetly, but as openly as I can, keeping in mind that there's issues. So there are basically 9 things that Sayyid mentions. Now, it's interesting because again, Agha has got, it's actually supposed to be 10, but he puts eating and drinking as 1. So not 2 separately. Most of the other Maharaja used to do eating as number 1, drinking as number 2. Sayyid Sistani in his Risala has put eating and drinking as number 1. Okay, so number 1 is eating and drinking, and again, if you remember what I said earlier, intentionally. Okay, sexual intercourse, istimna, masturbation, which results in ejaculation, ascribing false things to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the successors of the Aimma alayhim salam. Swallowing thick dust, again, there's an issue there as well, inshallah. Immersing one's complete head in water, but again, he has then subsequently clarified that as well. Remaining in a state of hayd, nifas, or janabat up until the time of Subh Sadiq, the adhan of Fajr prayers. Taking an enema with liquids inside it, and vomiting is number 9. Okay, right? So any of those things, eating and drinking, sexual relations, masturbation, ascribing lies to Allah, the Rasulullah, or the Aimma, swallowing thick dust, again intentionally, immersing one's complete head in water is shadid makruhat, remaining in a state of najasat up until the time of Subh Sadiq, taking an enema with liquids, or vomiting. Okay, so this is a very quick list of the things that are making the fast batil intentionally. Intentionally. So you stick your finger in your mouth, just maybe you ate something funny or what have you. But if you unintentionally vomit, your fast is still okay. You can rinse your mouth out and all that. Rinsing does not invalidate Shafiq. Okay. So I think, yes, say it. I did, yeah. Let's use the mic today, the sisters.
I heard one of the stuff that was bottled was inhaling thick dust intentionally, right? What if like your job's like, for example, a construction worker, I don't know, and you're like at a job site and there's like thick dust everywhere, right?
Right.
What are you supposed to do? Is that
In a situation like that, and I was trying to look for the what Sayed says about it. Anyways, what would be a recommendation or suggestion is to, and I think with the coronavirus, with the COVID-19, we learned how to live with masks, and I think that would be one thing that would be a very practical answer or a solution to that situation. Again, if it's part of your workplace and you have no choice and it's something that's around you, I'm going to I couldn't find it right now, but there is a slight exemption to that as well. I mean, thick dust has to be something that actually is thick enough to cause you to notice it, and then that, because I think in that definition you may not even be able to breathe fully properly, inshallah. Thank you very much, everybody. May Allah bless you all, inshallah. Actually, we covered more than I was expecting. So thank you for all of your time and your efforts. Since Syed has already done the Ayat Karima, I will request all of you to recite salawat 3 times for the organizers and for all the participants. 3 salawat upon Muhammad.
We'll just do a shorter ziyarah, inshallah, just making it easy out for our brothers and sisters. Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka ya Nabi Allah. Assalamu alayka ya Habib Allah. Assalamu alayka ya Ba'ith al-Huda. Assalamu alayka ya Khair Khalq Allah. Assalamu alayka ya Nur Arsh Allah. Assalamu ala Muhammad ibn Abdullah. السلام على ابنتك فاطمة الزهراء. السلام على ابن عمك أمير المؤمنين. السلام على صديق الحسن والحسين وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين، علي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي والحجة بن الحسن القائم المنتظر المهدي صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. اللهم صل على
Hi. Okay.